Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Interchange continue unabated. Really
happy birthday, EFF. Happy, 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 happy.
Going in from Somerset West, called the Clippible Road, arriving in.
What's Aramashati Walloy?
Also Marine Drive, jam-packed through Pardon Island area, and still plenty of traffic on the M3. Going to sit there this morning from Constantia up to UCT and then on to Hospital Bend. Yeah. Rob Byrne, AM Live, Traffic Watch.
The Forum at 8 with Sakina Kamwendo on AM Live, turning the spotlight on the big issues and the people behind them.
Hello. Fine, how are you?
Welcome to it. Well, this morning on the Forum at 8, we'll be focusing on the economic freedom fighters as they celebrate their 4th anniversary today. EFF Commander-in-Chief Julius Malema has been in KwaZulu-Natal mobilizing for the anniversary celebration, and he'll be joining us from our Durban studio shortly. But firstly, Mbali Sibanyoni compiled this report for us on the economic freedom fighters and the first 4 years of its existence.
It was the 29th of February 2012 when the ANC took a decision to expel Party Youth League leader Julius Malema, spokesperson Floyd Shivambu, and suspend League Secretary General Sindiso Makata from the organization. This after the trio were found guilty on charges of misconduct and sowing divisions within the party. A year later, Malema and Shivambu, alongside other disgruntled Youth League members, formed the Economic Freedom Fighters. It was launched on the 27th of July 2013 at the Uncle Tom's Hall in Orlando West, Soweto, with 1,200 delegates in attendance. Soon after, the party presented itself to the media in Johannesburg, where it announced Julius Malema as the party's commander-in-chief. Malema told journalists that the EFF was to be a unique revolutionary party, unlike any that had broken away from the ANC previously.
We are not like all of them. We are not like Ko. We are not like Ahang and all of them. We've got a completely different plan. Ours is expropriation of land without compensation. No one has spoken about that. You can't say we're like them. We want to nationalize, and those mines we nationalize, we are not going to pay for them. No one has said that. I mean, come on. Where are you from? I mean, you can't say we're like them. We are not like them. We are saying we are a protest movement. They are not a protest movement.
The party then took part in its first general election, where it secured 25 seats in parliament after barely being in existence for a year. Last year, during the August 3 local government elections, the EFF continued to rise as it managed to garner enough seats in various municipalities, making it in numerous cases the kingmaker on how these would run. The EFF went into coalition with the DA, helping it win key metro municipalities such as Joburg, Tshwane and Nelson Mandela Bay. But having made so much groundwork and changing the South African political landscape, Malema says there's still more to be done.
4 years is still a very small number and small years for a party that is aiming at having a huge impact in political landscape in South Africa. But we did push. We've got presence in all corners of South Africa. We now have 827 councillors in the whole country. We exist in almost all, or rather have a representatives in the 90% of South African municipalities, present in all legislatures, present in National Assembly and the NCOP. We've got branches all over, and every time there is a political development in South Africa, everyone else wants to know what is the EFF's view on this matter. So we've managed to establish a solid perspective and an alternative to African people.
The CIC of the party says despite breakaway parties having a bad record of poor performance, they are on the right track and have achieved more than they had anticipated.
It's a huge achievement. People don't trust new ideas. That's why people still call Aquafresh Colgate today. It's because Aquafresh came after Colgate, and therefore they can't trust that this good work done by Aquafresh is just Aquafresh. They think it's an old idea called Colgate. So new ideas, people doubt them. And that's why the EFF will always suffer from that. It is only after a long period of hard work that people will begin to appreciate that this EFF has got the staying power.
As the party celebrates its anniversary this weekend, Malema says they strategically chose to host the celebrations in KZN, as this is where it will try to build more of a support base.
Well, KwaZulu-Natal is a very difficult ground for the EFF. We're not making progress as expected, both in Natal and in the Eastern Cape or in the coastal provinces. And therefore, we've taken a conscious decision to go and break a new ground in KZN. KZN is the second province, followed by Eastern Cape in terms of registered voters. Number one is Gauteng. So we need those voters. 4 million in KZN, 2 million in eThekwini alone. So we need those voters, and that's why we went to KZN. But also that the ANC increases election support only in KZN. And we want to destabilize that growth.
Despite the EFF having had many successes so far, it was also cast into the spotlight when it expelled its commissar and MP Andile Mqitama. Another founding member who also parted ways with the movement, Kenny Kunene, says the EFF has lost its way and Malema is only interested in enriching himself. Kunene has also criticized the EFF going into a coalition with the DA.
Their leadership is no longer saving that document, that manifesto that was established, that was put together by Floyd, myself, with the gentleman that was writing for us, who edited it. That is no longer that manifesto. The manifesto that was launched in Soweto in 2013, that is not the manifesto that is being followed by the leadership. It is very sad. I don't care how Julius tries to spin this thing. He knows, I know, Floyd knows, and many other people, that he is lost to white capital. So what is he celebrating? He is no longer celebrating EFF. He is celebrating his own fat bank account that he gets at the back of EFF members.
Celebrations for the EFF's 4th anniversary will take place at the Curry's Fountain Stadium in Durban on Saturday. I'm Bali Sibanyoni in Johannesburg.
And joining us now from our studio in Durban is
Thank you for having us.
Congratulations. Many of those messages coming through, of course, here. And as Unati Kwasa says, I guess she and others never thought it would come this far, the EFF. But of course, there were those who always had hope. But how would you characterize the highlights of the EFF over these 4 years?
Well, the EFF has done very well. The EFF, within a short space of time, in less than a year, got 25 representatives in national parliament and NCOP and all provincial legislatures. Now we're talking with the party which doesn't have less than 800 councillors in the local municipalities. It has had impact, on the political landscape in South Africa. Made Zuma pay back the money, exposed the corruption, and the rot which is happening in this country, and continues to speak for the poor masses of our people, particularly the black working class.
And inevitably, Julius, has been lows. So what stands out for you in that regard?
Well, what stands out for me is the ability to put firmly on the table the issue of the land. Today, be it a celebrity, be it an ordinary citizen, be it a political party, or even business, they all speak about land today because of the insistence by the EFF. The land issue was a taboo. The land issue was abandoned. The land issue was no longer being discussed by formidable forces in the country. And the existence of the EFF insisted that the land question should be at the center of everything else we're talking about in this country.
So talk to us about the EFF and
We need to amend the constitution so that we put it very clear in the constitution that land will be owned by the state, and it will be expropriated without compensation, and do away with the willing buyer, willing seller, which is not working because our people do not have money. The former colonizer did not make resources available in a form of money to buy back the land from those who stole our land. And even those who have made some money, they are unable to buy back the land if there is no willing seller, and therefore it makes it impossible. And we think that the most effective way is if the state becomes the custodian of the land, and then reallocate that land to people equitably. So we think that the EFF government is the only government which is capable of doing that. Well, we don't even need that land audit. It's a waste of time and waste of resources. The land, the whole of South Africa's land should belong to the state. And therefore, the question of how much land has been audited, how much land is owned by the state and the private sector and individuals, and whether the land returned in the hands of the people has been used in a productive way or not. Once the state owns the land, those questions won't arise. It will be irrelevant as to who owns what, because all of it will belong to the state. And those who say we've identified this land for agricultural purposes and we think we can be effective, the state should zoom in, allocate it to those people, give them the necessary tools to work the land. We've identified this land, we want to open the factory. The state should be able to say, well, it looks like your idea will help us reduce unemployment and activate the local economy. We're allocating this land to you to open your factory, and it will be leased to you for so many years, depending on the discussions between the private investment and the state. We've identified this land for settlement, and if it's suitable for such, then the state allocate accordingly that land for settlement to those who have identified it for that purpose. So a land audit and all of that becomes irrelevant once the state is the custodian of the land. We all own the land if it belongs to the state. There's no white or black. And that's why we're saying let the land be shared equitably. We're not saying let the land be given to black people exclusively. We're saying every South African who is identified rightfully so as a South African with the necessary proof that suggests this person is indeed a South African should benefit from the land. So if we've got a land occupied by Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola is using that to produce their products, that land belongs to the state. Then Coca-Cola can clearly state its case that we're here, this is what we're doing and all that. Then the state marks that for that purpose, that such a plot is occupied by this company and is using it for this purpose. So that tomorrow, if there is a much better proposal which people put before the state, which will be more productive and useful than the existing activity, the state can revoke that and then introduce such a productive idea which can be utilized in around that space.
Lack of funding means that most students who start degrees don't finish.
You, your business, and Phoenix, the online crowdfunding solution powered by Standard Bank, can help students graduate. Make your contribution at phoenix.org. That's FEENIX.org.
Sakina Kamwendo on SAFM.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Forum at 8 this morning. We are hosting Julius Malema, who's the Economic Freedom Fighters Commander-in-Chief. And it is, of course, the anniversary, the 4th anniversary of the Economic Freedom Fighters. And Julius, the questions are coming in thick.
Well, we are speaking about nationalization of strategic sectors of the economy. We think that the state should have a bigger role to play in the economy. The state must be a player in the mines. The state must be a player in the banks. The state must be a big player in the monopoly industries, because a lot of money has been made from those sectors. Yet the state is not getting enough from those sectors because of illicit financial flows and tax avoidance, and people not making honest declaration as to how much they've made and all of that. So we want the state to be a player. So once the state becomes a player, it will benefit through dividends and it will benefit through taxes. For instance, take Telkom. The state is a 39% shareholder in Telkom, and through dividends the state then receives 2 billion, and through taxes the state receives 1 billion. So all in all is 3 billion. So if the state was not a player in Telkom, the state would have only received 1 billion in taxes, and there won't be dividends for the state. So look at how much the state makes out of direct participation in the strategic company like Telkom. So we need that in many, many other sectors of the economy which are productive. A lot of companies are doing successful, and if the state was a shareholder through whatever department, or even the state president will be making money through dividends and taxes. Well, there's nothing wrong with state-owned companies, really. The problem is Dudumiyeni at SAA. The problem is those corrupt fellows at Eskom. It's not like SAA is inherently incompetent and has never declared dividends. Telkom suffered the same thing until it was entrusted in the hands of capable management and leadership. So Telkom actually went for 4 years without declaring profits, and now it is declaring profits after such intervention. SAA at some point declared profit. Denel was one of the best run state-owned companies. AXA is still, and there is an attempt to corrupt it and ultimately collapse it. So it's not true that inherently state-owned companies are incompetent and therefore not efficient and could not be trusted with such a huge responsibilities. We're talking here every day in high courts. They are private companies that get liquidated. But there's never been a question that says, why should we trust private sector because companies are being liquidated? That thing, it's a clear hypocrisy which will not be even entertained. We have built out a financial sector in America, which plugged the Americans bailed out a private financial sector which plugged the whole world economy into crisis. And till to date, we still trust the financial sector. So it's not like because of a bailout, therefore there will be, the levels of trust will go down. The EFF government will create a corrupt free state, prosecute those who steal from those companies in order to restore confidence, but also to tell those who are coming after them that if you continue with that way of doing things, of stealing money of the state-owned companies, the next step will be jail. The reason why those companies cannot recover, it is because corruption in South Africa is not punishable. We're just throwing money all the time. There is a problem at SAA. Throwing money into ESCOM all the time when there is a problem. And throwing money is not a solution. Let's go to the core of the problem. The core of the problem is incompetent cadre deployment, which has run down those state-owned companies. So if we get capable people to run those companies, I'm telling you, all of us will be proud to be South Africans and be proud to associate with those companies.
It is news headlines.
Thanks, Sakina. Parliament says the decision to allow the use of a secret ballot during the debate of a vote of no confidence in President Jacob Zuma is still under consideration. The motion that was proposed by DA leader Musi Maimane and supported by the UDM and EFF is expected to be debated in less than 2 weeks. The Health Professions Council has advised the public.
They can't hear the Sakina.
Council pounced on a physiotherapist who was practicing.
Guys, the problem is that when we switch on the mic, then the speakers go off. So the best thing will be to equally listen on the radio so that you can have a clear direction of what we are talking about. So you can listen on the radio and then also have a visual on Instagram Live.
By the latest developments, I'll have more details at 9.
And Facebook, yeah, Facebook.
Is that the EFF?
I'm with Mbuyiseni, yes. I'm with Mbuyiseni. Roletta was put off by some insert which they put on the intro. Boring things. What can we do when you're dealing with captured journalists? SAFM, let's tune SAFM, Sakina. I mean, you just go to a Shebeen and fetch a person to come and comment about the EFF. Even claim to have written an EFF manifesto when he couldn't write a list of the beverages in his own so-called club. List of beverages. You write a manifesto. Yeah. And he truly believes that, you know. He truly believes that. Saturday, KZN, eThekwini, Caris Fountain.
Julius Malema, the Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters this morning. The Economic Freedom Fighters celebrating their 4th anniversary, and they're out in KwaZulu-Natal. Earlier it was explained, Julius Malema explaining how difficult it has been for the EFF to mobilize in the coastal areas, and this is where they have been for the week and will be for the official celebration taking place this weekend in KZN in Durban. Well, the lines are open, 0891 104 208. Julius, many messages.
Well, we think the ANC is being thuggerish as usual. They want to get more money when they occupy the opposition benches. So the reality is that the ANC has come to accept that 2019 there won't be a ruling party, but they will still have the majority. I mean, from elections, and then that majority will lose to a coalition. Then party funding will then be allocated proportionally, and they will get the bigger piece of the cake, and then continue to enjoy state money even when they are in the opposition. They don't believe in that. Even the proposal, they don't put emphasis more on parties declaring their funders, which is what we support, that all parties must declare to politicians. That money must go and help the children who are going to schools without shoes. So we are going to oppose that amendment by the ANC, which wants to steal more money from the taxpayers. Our policies actually are policies that suggest that our people should come together, because the division in South Africa is based on the poor and the rich. Those who don't have, they are black, and those who have, they are white. For as long as you have not addressed that imbalance, for as long as inequality is not resolved, I can tell you now, they will continue to experience divisions and will continue to experience xenophobia, because those who are unemployed and not benefiting from this economy, they are being misled that you are not benefiting because of fellow African brothers and sisters. They make us fight amongst ourselves for crumbs while they are eating the real stuff. So let's resolve the land, let's resolve the inequality, then we'll resolve poverty and unemployment. Through resolution of such, there will be genuine unity, not imposed unity.
Good morning, it's Kevin. How are you, man?
Good, and you?
I'm fine, without any doubt, the EFF is the only relevant political party in South Africa today by far, without any doubt. Julius Malema, my president, nothing or hating. They've got the qualities of leadership. The ANC must be voted out come 2019. We are sick and tired of empty promises.
Get us a pen and paper quickly.
Young people have always been the driver for social change. That's what my EFF stands for. We need change. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lucky. Tapelo is in Bethlehem. Morning to you.
Morning, Sakina. Sakina, I wish to wish the EFF a great anniversary. But I don't have a problem with the agenda that the EFF is pursuing and their leadership, in particular at the national level. But I just want to find out from Julius, what is he doing with regard to empowering the leadership, especially in particular from the provincial level to a local level, because that leadership there is it's extremely sectionalized, and you have careerists, those careerists who have never been into politics and are clueless about the real political administration. And also, I don't know why people are so concerned about state having control over the resources, because whatever a white man has achieved in the West, it has achieved it through the use of state power. You look at the Land Act of 1910, it was state power. The Forced Removal, it was state power. Job Preservation Act, it was state power. So whatever a white man has achieved in the West today is through state power.
Thanks so much, Tapelo. Lawrence in Port Elizabeth, good morning.
Good morning, SK. SK, for me, you know, Julius Malema and the EFF act exactly just like a 4-year-old, and I will tell you why. You know, when it came to the DA and to Helen Zille, Malema said on the Monday, you know, if you don't expel that woman, we're going to withdraw from supporting you. On the Thursday, the very same Malema sings the praises of the DA of Musi Maimane. Secondly, when it comes to the vote of no confidence, they want to persuade every ANC MP to vote with the EFF, but in Mogale City, the very same like Malema wants to now expel those councillors of the EFF who have voted like with their conscience. Thirdly, when it comes to FDF, he gives this impression now that he hates FDF and he doesn't want to speak to this like a party president. But FDF is the founder of the DA and he's in bed with the DA. So you know this guy that is SK, he has absolutely no principles. He's a real political clown, man. You must watch him when he has these media conferences of his. He acts like an absolute clown. He has no principles whatsoever. So with him, in 2019, he won't be, because one thing sure, our people are not stupid. They can see through him. He's been paid by Renwick, you know, and he's been paid to act in the way that is acting. So in about 2 years' time, he will have no relevance in South African politics. He's only been a political mishap, to be honest with you.
Lawrence in Port Elizabeth, let's answer those and come back for another tranche of calls. Julius?
Well, I don't want to be like people like Lawrence and claim to be in bed with people I've never been in bed with. You know, just go around saying I've been in bed with this one and that one, claiming. I'm not in bed with a DA. And he says we are behaving like a 4-year-old. We are 4-year-old. And that's how you must behave. You can't behave like a 100-year-old when you're 4-year-old. So we're going to behave like that, whether he likes it or not. He must just be strong. And, you know, prophets of doom like him were here in 2013 and said, just look at Malema in 1 year's time, in 2 years' time, in 2 days' time. And then what? 4 years now. So a clown has been exposed. Exactly who is the clown now? We know that such predictions have been made about the EFF before. And that's why this interview today is exciting, Sakina, because like many people who were there thought this thing will not go anywhere. We'll be here in 2019. We will be government in South Africa, governing clowns like Lawrence, and he will have to eat a humble pie and observe us leading, you know, this country. I've never, you know, yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, you cannot return to a non-existing organization, really. It's like when people say to you, will you go back to the house which has been demolished? It's not there. So why would I go back to the ANC? We're collapsing the ANC into the EFF. We are the only beneficiaries of people who are leaving the ANC because we are the real black alternative, and we can be trusted with the future of black South Africans. So that's how we, see the future of the EFF. We're working already. We are getting, the best of the best ANC cadres on the ground. That's why we said at Marikana that we're eating this elephant piece by piece. We're patient. We're building this EFF from the ground. We want its foundation to be solid, and we're not rushing into anything. That's why the packaged intro of SAFM on this 4 years of the EFF, it's wrong to say the EFF is in coalition with the DA. We're not in a coalition with the DA. We refused municipalities. We refused to be executive mayors because we're not suffering from uncontrollable ambition for power. We're still building our organization, and that's why I will ask that caller who complained about provinces and regions to please be patient. We are a new organization. They are new people. Many of them even say they joined politics for the first time with the EFF. Allow us to grow them. Allow us to nurture them. We are engaged in permanent inductions and political education to ensure that we produce the best of the best. And therefore, really, let's not be impatient with the EFF. EFF beyond Julius Malema, there are a lot of people who are coming after me. Peter Ketse, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, Naledi Cherwa, all of these young people have demonstrated that they've got the capacity to take over the EFF from us and run it. And that's why, of late, if you've observed, Sakina, I've taken 2 steps backward and allowed the EFF to assume a life of its own. We had to be in charge at the beginning because we're all at the formative stage. Now we think that the organization is maturing nicely and it can run its own affairs. I'm prepared to leave the EFF in the capable hands of these leaders of the EFF. The deputy president of the EFF is one trusted soul which can take over the leadership of the EFF. So I'm happy with the type of organization we have formed, and this organization will live beyond Julius Malema. That's why we speak about nationalization of strategic sectors of the economy so we can create jobs for them, because the economy that is only in the hands of the private sector is driven by profit making at all costs, and they don't care if such profit actually translates into a job creation. So a state-led economy will create jobs because will not want to maximize a profit at all costs. We will make education free because the worst thing that apartheid did to our people, it was exclusion from education, which is what we're still suffering from today. If we want to correct the past, let's educate our people, because it is through education that will have a sustainable economic freedom. So they knew that an uneducated nation will not challenge the status quo. And that's why it took us forever to overthrow the apartheid regime. It is through an educated nation that will be able to create sustainable economic freedom and people who can stand on their own and not be entirely dependent from the state.
Good morning, Sakina. One question to Ndate Malema there. I agree, and it's true, and it's evident that our government is fantastically corrupt. And if you were to become a president in 2019, what will you immediately do to get us out of this mess without, radical, without upsetting the market, in growing the economy and in building this nation again to be the number one, leader in Africa? What will you do immediately? And Sakina, if Julius, I've been observing what Julius has been doing all the time, ever since the EFF was launched. One thing that stood out is that his ability to speak the truth. And I'm afraid if Julius can tell me today that my wife is cheating, I will not even ask questions. I will believe it. Thank you, Sakina.
Your poor wife. Peter Wiley in Gravestown, good morning.
Thank you very much, Sakina. Good morning to you. I've got two questions to your guest and a big request of you. First of all, I want to ask your guest to give us examples of where state-owned land has been farmed more effectively than private. Many of his followers really want to farm because it was announced some 3 weeks ago that the people who were offered an option of either land in this restitution policy Zimbabwe's Robert Mugabe, maybe a few times. And Mugabe has certainly perfected the recipe for disaster and a failed state. I just wonder how much Mr. runs a couple of programs, because we certainly do not want to end up in the Zimbabwe situation, and get some other experts and other role players to talk about this expropriation of land without compensation. Thanks very much for listening to me and giving me the opportunity, Sakina.
Thanks, Peter. You noted. Let's go to Nhlanhla in Durban. Good morning.
Good morning, Sakina. The EFF and Malema are wrong in terms of the land question. The land was owned by the kings and queens on behalf of the African people. So as long as the kings and queens are sidelining the issue of land, that would not be returning the land back to the real owners. Two, the EFF is on history, having given the DA by platter, in a platter, the municipal land in Tshwane and in Johannesburg. How do you claim to be fighting for land when you give the white party? Because we know, even if in the front there could be African people, but we know the real owners of the DA and the drivers of the DA are white monopoly capital, as you would like to put it. That you give them in a platter that municipal land in both their municipalities. Lastly, nationalization. To me, nationalization is state capitalism, and it is full of chronic corruption. And if you support nationalization and you say you fight against corruption, and to me, you are just playing with weights, and there's nothing that will help South Africans to fight corruption if you proceed. We rather go for socialization of the means of production and the economy as a whole. Thank you.
Thanks, Nhlanhla. Staying in Durban, Mutala, good morning.
Sawona.
Yebo, Baba, good morning.
Yeah, sawona mtanami Malema.
Ba, siyaphila kunjani ba?
land in the past for centuries, not owned by you, it belongs to the Creator God. And everybody has the right to use it. And what you are doing is the right thing. These people usurp the land, even after independence, the little land which the poor black had, our brethren had, what happened? They gave the title deed to the chief, most of whom were collaborators. And these chiefs are doing what they like with the land. So we must get back the land. The land belongs to whoever lives on it, and it is his right to use it. So the government will change. Other people will come in. And every time the people die, the land that now does not belong to them, it belongs to the people who will come in the future. Thank you, my dear. This is an answer to all those who are criticizing you, my dear. Carry on the good work. Thank you.
The social media platforms. Let's look at Facebook. Amon Sfisomatonsela says the branches of EFF are not allowed the opportunity to declare what kind of leadership they want. RCT's influence outcomes of BPAs. What is CCT doing about this? Thank you. Ephraim Dlamini says, Sakina, just ask the CIC, is it true that he said the EFF is prepared to work with any political party, including the ANC? This statement is confusing if indeed the Commander-in-Chief did utter that. Vuyo Percival Charles says, well done to the CIC and other founding comrades for their vision. I do not regret for a second voting for the EFF. Happy anniversary. And Jack Turok says, well done for sustaining the momentum. COPE and UDM withered quickly, but you have managed to stay afloat against all odds. Julius?
No, thank you very much. I think that some of the messages really acknowledges the type of role we've played. Well, the message that says land belongs to all, it's a correct message. And it says no one controlled and all that. That was in the earlier primitive society. The world has evolved, and there's now some introduction of control measures so that we really manage how we utilize the land, and we're saying the state is more capable of doing that. So if you're to argue that in the past we were not asking anyone's permission, we'll just occupy anywhere else and all that, correct. But we can't do that now, and therefore it must be done differently, because someone else is going to come and say, in the past we're not wearing clothes and therefore we must not wear clothes now. It can't work, you know. There are certain things we did in the past, and we cannot refuse the fact that there is now change. The confusion of state capitalism, nationalization, socialization, there's no such a thing. In China, it's a socialist state, and in that socialist state, there's no corruption. Corruption is highly punished in China, to an extent that if you work for the state and you are occupying a strategic position, from time to time the state takes your family to go and see how people who are in prison live their life after stealing from government, so that it becomes a family responsibility to actually continue to give you advice not to steal from the state, because they've seen horrible things happening to those who stole from the state when they were working for the state. So it's not true that a socialist state where nationalization exists is a state-led corruption. The same thing can be said about Cuba. There's no such thing as, corruption by the state. There's no white person who has been given a municipality, and the EFF did not give anyone a municipality. The people voted, and when the people voted, they created those situations that we're experiencing in those municipalities. I'm sorry, we were not going to vote for the ANC, because when you vote for the ANC, it's like taking an ATM straight into Zuma's bedroom with a pin. ATM. Zuma can't be trusted with an ATM with a pin. So we cannot do that. We're not going to take the municipalities directly into Zuma's bedroom. We'll not do that. And then this a false conscience that the land belongs to the kings and the queens. When the Land Act were passed, stopping black people from owning the land, they didn't say the 1913 Land Act, the queens and the kings will not own the land. If those indeed were the owners of they said black people. They knew what they meant by that. Even under the ownership of the land by the kings and the queens in areas where the queens presided over such, they will make allocation to individuals. And the same thing still happens today. If you are in a rural area and you need a piece of land and is controlled by the royal family and the royal council, they give you a portion. And after giving you that portion, you pay for it. They give you something called yelwana. Yelwana is not a title deed, but it's something that shows that this portion of land has been allocated to this individual. So it's not correct to suggest that only the return of the land into the hands of the kings and queens will mean a genuine return of the land to the rightful owners. The land is owned by the state in China, and it is successful. Our members want to farm. Our members want to use the land for production. And those who are taking money, they do so because the state has not introduced a working mechanism which they can trust, that if we're to go for the land, we'll still make money. Because we're going to take the land, we do not have the tools to work the land, we do not have the seeds, we do not have the necessary skill to even engage in financial management of such a project. Once the state introduces a comprehensive plan on how this land can be used productively to the benefits of all, there will not be the selling of the land. But once you give us a land and not give us the tools, you are setting us up for failure. That's why we are going for money. It's as clear as that. After 2019, the only way we are going to restore order in South Africa and defeat corruption is the arrest of Jacob Zuma and the revival of law enforcement. The law enforcement in South Africa has been collapsed. The NPA has closed shop. I don't know if Sean Abrams is still head of NPA or is running his own chicken farm somewhere. I can't even give account of the whereabouts of my own head of National Director of Public Prosecution. So it has closed shop. The only cases they are successfully prosecuting is shoplifting. How can you call yourself a competent National Director of Public Prosecution when you can only prosecute shoplifting and real cases of corruption are not being punishable? Arrest of Zuma is not personal. The arrest of Zuma is an arrest of corruption. If you cannot arrest Zuma, then you must know you will never arrest corruption. It means corruption will be institutionalized. That's what will happen after 2019. Zuma straight to Hoshimampuri prison in Pretoria. That's where he belongs. It doesn't even belong to Nkandla. Those Nkandla people are very peaceful. He's going to poison them. He's poisonous. Happy 4th anniversary for the EFF. Thank you.
As the Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters, Julius Malema.
Thank you. Thank you.